Shalom Aleichem, my sweetest friends. Everybody thinks I say something different. Today we're going to be starting a Sefer called the Concise Book of Mitzvot, Sefer Mitzvot ha-Katzar. And it's written by Yisroel Meir Kagan, who's affectionately known as the Chofetz Chaim. And so what this Sefer does is it goes through all of the mitzvot that we are able to go ahead and keep nowadays. It goes through the positive and the negative mitzvot. And we're going to be starting this year going through all the positive mitzvot. There are approximately, let's see if you're, there are 77, there are, 94. So there are 94 mitzvot that are positive mitzvot aseh, that we currently can keep. And what we're going to be doing today and for the next couple of days is we're going to be going through the author's ha-Katzar, the foreword of the Chofetz Chaim, of the work that is known as the Sefer Mitzvot ha-Katzar, the Concise Book of Mitzvot. And so let's go ahead and continue, or let's start, I should say. And we're going to be breaking his ha-Katzar up into three parts because it's not a super long ha-Katzar, but we want to go ahead and get through just a little bit here at a time, not to take so much and have these daily studies here so elongated. So he starts off, Katuva Rambam, Sof Hilchos Me'ila. So the Rambam writes at the end of his book of Me'ila. So Me'ila is a mitzvah. That's the last tractate, by the way, in the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud of Seder Kedoshim, and the order of sacrifices. And so the laws of Me'ila, simply put, are deriving benefit from sanctified objects that are Kudashim. And an individual who does this prohibition is obligated to bring a korban asham, a guilt offering. And so two simple verses really outline the biblical laws, and they are both from Sefer Vayikra, from the book of Leviticus, chapter 5, verses 15 and 16. And basically they say, if one commits a trespass and sin through error in the holy things of the Lord, then he shall bring his forfeit to the Lord, a ram without blemish out of the flock, according to valuation in silver by shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary, for a guilt offering. And he shall make restitution for that which he has done, which he has prohibited in the holy thing, whatever it is, and shall add the fifth part, add a fifth to it, and give it to the priest. The priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering. He shall be forgiven. So essentially, what we're talking about is a person who misuses holy things for a mundane purpose and does so unintentionally as well. Excuse me. So this is the last chapter, Perichet, chapter 8, in the Rambam's dealings of the laws, of Me'ila. And so what he does basically, he gives a little bit of a capstone to this section, this book dealing with these mitzvot, and the Chofetz Chaim, Yisroel Meir Kagan, sees fit to go ahead and seize upon this, and he goes ahead and quotes at length, actually, the Rambam. So he says, Katuva Rambam. He says, Katav Rambam. So Rambam writes in the end of Hilchos Me'ila, he says, V'ra'ui la'adam lehisbonen b'mishpatei ha-Torah ha-kadoshim v'leida sof inyanam kifi kocho. So it's worthwhile, it's fitting for a person to go ahead and meditate on the laws of the Torah, the Holy Torah, and to understand and to know the ideas, the matters therein, according to his ability. V'davar shelo yimsa, lo ta'am v'lo yeda, and a matter that a person doesn't really find a reason for or doesn't an understanding, lo ila. He says what happens usually is that basically, and he doesn't know its purpose, I should say. Al yehei kal be'enav, that this should not become light in his eyes. So basically, the Rambam, and echoed through the Chofetz Chaim, is saying that if somebody has a mitzvah and they don't know the reason for the mitzvah, that mitzvah should not become light in its eyes. Give you an example. The Rambam's going to give some examples, I think. No, he does not. Well, he gives the example of Me'ilah. That's the example that he's going to seize upon. But I'll give an example of my own. So, for instance, shatnez. So shatnez is a mitzvah of the Torah that we're not allowed to mix wool and linen. So people ask the question, why not? And the answer, although many have given many different reasons, proposed reasons, the answer ultimately is we don't know. There's not a specific answer that's given in the Torah. As I said, there are many people that have given reasons, etc. But a lot of people say, well, if it doesn't really make sense to them, and this is what the Rambam's quoting, then it becomes kind of light in their eyes, meaning it becomes not so important. And so the Rambam is basically is mitigating against that. He says this shouldn't be the case. He says Va'al yaharos el Hashem pen yifrotz bo v'lo tihei machshav. He says, and that a person should not burst forth on the Lord. Let's see here. He should not break through to rise up against Hashem, lest he break through against him. So he's quoting a verse from Exodus 19 where it talks about separating all of the people around the mountain, and he says no person should go up the mountain, or not even an animal, lest Hashem break forth on them, whatever that means. So the idea here, the Rambam was saying, he equates it with that verse. So continuing on, he says, "V'lo tihei machshavto vo k'machshavto b'sha'ar divrei hachol," and this shouldn't really become his thoughts about this mitzvah shouldn't become thoughts of just like of secular things. So this shouldn't become just like a secular matter in his mind. Something like we might look at Greek or Roman or Norse or whatever mythology and just be like, oh, well, it's interesting to study. However, it doesn't have any meaning to my life. The Rambam's saying this should not be the case. Bo ra'eh. He says, come and see. Kama hechamira Torah mim'ila. He says, look how much the Torah is giving such a emphasis on this mitzvah of me'ilah. Me'ilah, again, as we said in the beginning, is simply just treating holy things, but treating them accidentally, without purpose, mundanely, that you have to bring a korban, etc. He says, ma'im, eitim, va'avani, va'afar, va'efer. He says, hey, these things are like wood or stone or ashes, etc. Since the name of the Lord of the world is upon them, bidivarim bilvad, only by words, meaning that once the name of God of the world is linked to them by mere pronouncement of words, what happened? Niskadashu, they become holy. So what can this be compared to? This can be compared to a farmer who takes a measure of grain or some other food, and all of a sudden is going to designate this as truma, going to designate this as a gift that's given to the Kohen, to the priest, even though basically all the farmer did is just designated by a statement, by a verbal statement. Now this is holy. Now this, what was an ear of wheat, just like all the other ears of wheat, now this has a holy, sanctified status, etc. He says, and anybody who treats it just like as something that's secular or just treats it in a profane way, that person, even if he did it in an unintentional manner, that person now needs an atonement. He says, how much more those mitzvot, which certainly are mitzvot that are said with a lot more strength and certainty, that person must be true with those mitzvot. The commandments of the Holy One, blessed be He, enacted for us. He says, Shalo yiv'at ha'adam behem mipnei shalo yedeh tama'an. He says that a person should not reject them just because he doesn't know the reason. V'lo yachpei devarim asher lo chen al Hashem yisbarach. He says, neither should he make up ideas or fabricate that they're not right about the blessed God. Meaning, you shouldn't just make up some ideas. V'lo yachsho behen machshavto ki divrei chol And he said he should not have his thinking set on these matters or just something that are profane, non-holy matters. So the upshoot of what the Rambam's saying, and here is echoed, is quoted by the Chofetz Chaim as in part of his Hakdama. The first paragraph here is just that we shouldn't treat these things that we don't know reasons for, even if we don't know the reason for it, we shouldn't treat it as something that's profane or kind of a lesser mitzvah, if you will. Hare, ne'emar b'Torah. So as it says, it's plainly stated in the Torah. It says, Ushmartam et kol chukutai et kol mishpatai v'esitamotam. You should guard all of my chukotai, even those things that are chukim that we don't necessarily know the manner. They're just enactments that are given to us by the Holy One, and all of His statutes, and you should do them. V'amar zichron levracha, and our sages of blessed memory said, "Liten shmira ve'asiya lechukim kamishpatim." He says this is basically the sages of blessed memory. This is to make observance and doing apply to chukim, those laws that we don't necessarily know the reason for, just like as if they're mishpatim, just like if they're civil ordinances that we understand and that are clear to us and are limited understanding here. And he says v'hasiya yadua she'asam chakukim v'hashmira, and he says the person, we know by this doing that the chukim are to be done, they're being carried out and to be kept, observed. She is zahir bahem lo yidma shehem chutim mina mishpatim. He says this shmira, this carrying out, this guarding is supposed to be done not on a lesser level than the mishpatim. The mishpatim are civil ordinances that we understand, like don't steal, don't murder, all of these kind of things that any nation would regulate as laws, right? Those are the mishpatim in the Torah, and he says you shouldn't treat them in any lesser way. You shouldn't treat the chukim, those mitzvot that we don't know necessarily rational answers for. You shouldn't treat them in any lesser way. And so, imagining that they're like somehow inferior to the mishpatim. Mishpatim hem ha-Mitzvot. He says the mishpatim, he says these are the mitzvot that the reasons are very evident, they're self-evident. For tovat asitan ba'olam hazeh yadua, and so that the benefit of carrying them out in this world is very known. He gives an example, Kagan, gazo, like for instance, robbery, shfichos damim, and spilling blood, v'chibod ava'em, and honoring mother and father. So he says, these are the things, again, that are very obvious that we're supposed to do them, and the reward and punishment for them is also very obvious as well. So now he's going to turn to the chukim. Ha-chukim, ha-Mitzvot she'en tama'an yadua. These are the mitzvot, the type of commandments that we don't really know the meaning of them. And our sages of blessed memory said, chukim chakakti lecha ve'en lecha rashut laharher bahen. He said, quoting here from the Socher Tov, the Midrash on Tehillim, and Siftes in Tehillim number 9. It says here, I enacted chukim for you, and you have no right to entertain some doubting thoughts about them. And so that's a quote from the sages there. And so he says, the nations of the world, what do? They comment like about them in a way that's denigrating. Kigon iser basar chazir uvasar bechalov. So he says the prohibition of eating the flesh of pigs, for instance, eating pork, basar bechalov, and mixing meat and dairy, the egla rufa, and the laws of the heifer whose neck is broke in the case of a homicide, and we don't know who committed it, and we don't know which city it's committed in. The faraduma and the red heifer. And the goat that's sent off. So in other words, all of these things basically are things that people really don't necessarily know the reasons for, because they're simply ritual commandments that are oftentimes allegorical, or they're oftentimes symbolic of things. but we're doing really real things. We're slaughtering animals, we're killing goats, and all these kinds of things that have become ritual commandments, and says that the Ummos Ha'olam, the people around us, just look at these as kind of silly things. However, we should not accept the silliness or denigration with which people who look into the laws of the Torah that don't have any commitment to keeping them, we shouldn't look at the way that they denigrate them and adopt those ideas. However, our thought should be that these are mitzvot that are given to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and they should not be any lessened or any denigration amongst these things that are ritual and that we don't really understand, in comparison to the things that are very obvious that we do understand, like theft and murder, etc. So that is the first part of the Hakdama of the Chofetz Chaim, the first part of his foreword. And so stay tuned to tomorrow where we'll look at the second part of his foreword. Until then, everybody should have a great day in every way. God bless.